classified as a third felony offender: offense manslaughter, aggravated battery, attempted forcible rape, and attempted oral sexual battery. Sentencing dates are March 23rd, 1992, revoked on August 22nd, 2002. Sentenced to a total of 40 years, 10 months, 7 days. Parole date is August 1st, 2021. Good time, April 16, 2037. And full term, September 18, 2041. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you very much. Mr. Walters, my name is Tony Marabella. You were assigned, your case was assigned to me, so I'm the first one to kind of interview you a little bit. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wrote down Walters Hannon. Hannon is your last name, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Hannon. Mr. Hannon, tell me how old you are, sir.
I'm 54.
64?
54.
54, okay. And how long have you been in prison?
21, going on 22 years.
How far did you go in school?
11th grade.
Okay. Have you gotten your GED?
I got my GED when I was in LSU in Angola.
Okay. How long ago did you get your GED?
That was in 90. That was what, 98?
Okay. What were you in Angola for in 98?
For murder.
That's the manslaughter charge?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the programs that you've done while you've been in prison.
Well, I was up in Toastmaster. I was up in the sex offender class, and I was also up in the what's that? Alcohol Anonymous, AA.
Okay. Tell me about the sex offender class. How many phases did you take in sex offender?
2. Just 2.
When did you take those?
That was what? Last year, I think.
Okay. Why did you take only 2? Why didn't you take 3 and 4?
I got out of there. I just didn't never get a chance to finish it.
Did you finish 1 and 2?
I finished 1 and 2.
And did you enroll in phase 3?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because the pandemic stopped it. But when I came for my annual review, I was supposed to stop by there and ask him to sign me back up. But when I went by there to ask him, he had left off of he went off up in the place that where I could ask him, and I never made it back to him.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the manslaughter charge that you were in prison for. What happened on that case?
Will you be more what you speaking of? What happened?
The manslaughter charge. You went to prison for manslaughter. You told me a little while ago you were in prison for murder. You were charged with murder, but you actually got convicted of manslaughter, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what happened. How did that happen?
Well, then I was at the club and me and this offender had got into an argument, and he went in his pocket. We went in his pocket and put out a gun. I shot him.
Okay. And were drinking or drugs involved?
No, not at that moment. No.
Okay. Have you done drugs in the past?
Yes, I have.
What kind of drugs?
The drugs that got me off up in here now.
Well, tell me about them.
PCP.
Okay. When did you start using drugs?
I would say in elementary.
What did you start using?
Where?
What did you start using? Everybody starts with marijuana generally. You start on marijuana?
Yes, sir.
What did you progress to from there?
To some cocaine and then PCP.
And how long did you use cocaine and PCP before you got arrested for the manslaughter charge?
Shortly. I would say about a year or two after.
Okay, how often were you using drugs?
Daily, I would say.
Did you ever get any treatment on the outside?
No, sir.
All right, so you went to prison on the manslaughter charge. How much time did you serve on the manslaughter charge initially?
About 9.5, I think.
9.5 years?
Yes, sir.
And you paroled out?
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me what programs you took while you were in jail for manslaughter.
I was up in church a lot. Methodist man. And like I said, I went in and out of that Toastmaster, but I never finished.
Okay. Did you take any any drug classes or substance abuse classes?
No, sir.
Why not?
I don't remember them having no drug.
All right.
Hold up. I think they did have AAA, but no, sir, I didn't.
You didn't go to any of that?
No, sir.
When you paroled out, did you go back to using drugs?
No, not right at the moment. No, sir. No, I didn't.
Well, how long were you out on parole before you committed this new crime?
Well, soon I took a couple pulls of some which I thought was gonna be some marijuana, but it turned out to be some PCP. And then right after that, that's when I caught this other charge.
All right. So you get out of jail, what, 2000? Fair to say you got out of jail on your manslaughter charge in 2000?
Yes, sir.
You've been out for 2 months. You go back to using drugs. Yes? No?
Yes, sir.
So what did you do tell me about the charge you're in jail on now.
Well, the charge I'm in jail on now, like I said, I thought I was smoking some marijuana and I took some pulls off of it, and then it was marijuana laced with PCP. And then with that there, the next thing I know, I was locked up on some charges.
So you don't remember anything about raping a 13-year-old boy?
No, sir, I don't.
Well, have you given any thought to what you did to get you in prison this time?
Yes, I did. I thought about that, and it was real. It's real to me. It's real sickening to me. That's something I never did, or none.
You went to trial, didn't you?
Yes, sir. I sure did.
You heard all of the facts of the case?
Yes, I did.
Now, did you remember all of that when you were at trial?
I went to trial. I went to trial for forcible rape.
I hear you.
I got found guilty for attempt forcible rape. I didn't get found guilty because it was a lot of lies told.
Well, how do you know there were lies told when you said you don't remember it?
Because the cross-examination, the story changed. The victim himself changed his testimony. And also,
well, let me stop you. Let me stop you here. You
Okay.
tell me what you did to that young boy that caused you to be in prison.
if I don't know what I don't know, but I could tell you what I'm being accused of. I am being accused of raping.
Okay. Now, you don't believe you did it?
If he say I did it, I say, like I say,
What do you think after being in prison for 22 years, thinking about this, sitting through a trial, going through sex offender treatment, you tell me what you think you did.
I think it's a strong possibility. I probably did some of the stuff that allegedly that I supposed to been did, but for me to not to remember the stuff and then for the police himself, the police said no. You know what I'm saying? That's why I got found guilty for attempt. You know.
So you think attempted forcible rape is okay, but a forcible rape isn't?
No. I think all of it's sick. You know what I'm saying? You know, I own up to it. You know,
you didn't own up to it. You went to trial and were found guilty.
I went to trial because I didn't believe it. I didn't believe all the things that was said that I supposed to have did. I didn't believe, and I still don't to this day.
I hear that was my point.
Yeah, but for a person to say that I did this, you know, I apologize to the victim and also the victim people, you know. But you know, I was, like I said, I was high, I was on drugs, and whatever they say I did, you know, I can't say that I didn't do it, but going through trial, when I went through trial and listened to the evidence of this and that, you know, and then that's when I really kind of feel like some had to be said, or some had to be wrong with it, or some, because I couldn't have did everything that they alleged to say I did, because it just didn't add up.
It added up apparently for the jury. Let me ask you a question. Tell me a little bit about your disciplinary record while you've been in prison. How many write-ups have you had?
I came.
What if I told you 106?
Here?
No, while you've been in prison.
Oh, okay. All right. How many I had since I've been back? I don't, you know.
What are you going to do to stay off of drugs if you get out of prison early? If I vote to release you and my colleagues vote to release you, how are you going to stay off of drugs?
I got to enter up into some type of rehab.
I'm sorry, what?
I got to go up into some type of rehab or something.
Okay. You accept the fact that you need some long-term rehab?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what kind of long-term rehab do you think you need?
Well, then, right now, I haven't. Drugs is the last thing on my mind, because
I believe that while you're in prison, sure.
No. It ain't because why I'm in prison. It's because why it's behind this charge that I'm on. That's I don't never want to do no drugs. All because of this charge itself. This charge itself, then it didn't mess my whole life up. You know, this charge is one of the most sickly charges
Well, let me ask you something. What do you think this charge did to that young 13-year-old boy?
It messed his life up. It messed his family life up. You know, say I'm sorry for all that. That's you know, I can't take what happened, whatever happened that happened. I can't. That's out my head right now. Only thing I can do is pray about it, and I hope they can find it up in their heart to forgive me. But most of all, I hope I can find in my heart to forgive myself, because I ain't did that yet.
I'm looking at your institutional record, and the person who prepared this indicates you have a poor record. What do you say about that?
A poor record?
Yeah. Were you ever in any kind of a work release program?
Work release? No, I never been in a work release.
Okay. Did you take a victims awareness program?
Yes, I did.
You finished it? You were enrolled in it at one time.
Yes, but I never finished it. I didn't.
You didn't finish the program?
No, still in the program.
You're still in the program now?
Yes.
Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Hannon?
Well, Walter's been here since June of 2012. He came up here from LSP. The last write-up was in 2018. He has participated in some programming. He's maintained a pretty good conduct record since he's been at this institution. He's currently working as a dorm orderly, and his work history is pretty good. I think Colonel Tolliver, who evaluated his work record, gave him good marks and stated that he worked good in the dormitory, keeping the dormitory clean. He's not a problem offender at this institution, Mr. Marabella. We haven't really had any significant issues with him. All those significant disciplinary problems he had prior to 2012 was at other institutions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Warden. I appreciate it. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Hannon, to answer your question, you have approximately 27 write-ups for this incarceration. All the other ones were from prior incarcerations. Okay? I see no speakers. Mr. Hannon, would you like to give us a closing statement?
Yes, I would. I would like to say I apologize to the family and the victim, which I hurt. I didn't mean to hurt no one, and I hope they can find in their heart to forgive them. This to the victim and also to the family. And I thank y'all for coming in and spending the time. And I can't change what I did. I can't change none of that. But I hope they could just find in their heart to forgive me. And thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hannon, I appreciate where you are on your journey. I think you're moving in the right direction. You apparently have been a good prisoner where you are now. You've had a history of some other things. You tell me that you don't know much about this charge of the attempted forcible rape because you were on drugs. And you also tell me very honestly that you need long-term treatment, that you need some help. And I hear that. I hear that as a cry for help, and I appreciate that. I think you're moving in the right direction. You do have a pretty bad history, no question of that. You've got, I believe that you need to do, you need to finish the substance abuse treatment program. You did 2 phases. You need to do the other 2 phases. I want you to finish that victim's awareness because it's critically important. But most importantly, I want you to try to get into a long-term drug treatment program. If I were to vote to let you out today without any tools, I would be setting you up for failure. I think you need some more help with your drug issues. My vote today would be to deny you, but to encourage you to continue to move forward. So good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Marabella, Mrs. Wise.
Mr. Hammond, I've listened to you today, and I believe that you are coming around. I cannot take a chance with you today. My vote is denied because of your very poor supervision history and your law enforcement opposition and the poor institutional record that because of the information that we have. But you continue. Stay on the front row and learn what you can learn and reapply when you're eligible.
Thank you.
Mr. Hannon, my advice to you is immediately after this hearing, enrolled in the 3rd phase of your sex offender treatment and complete the last 2 phases. After that, you need to get some substance abuse treatment. Based upon all the reasons already been articulated, my vote also is to deny. When you complete your sex offender and your substance abuse treatment program, write back, request another hearing, and maybe this will be a different story next time. But my vote also is to deny. You will receive 3 votes to deny your request. Your request for early release has been denied. You have a good day.
A good day. Thank you.
Well, let's go over the facts of this case. Let's unpack it, because what he did was disgusting, to quote his own words, and it's just gonna infuriate. I think it will infuriate you as it did me. I was reading this information as he was talking, and it only just rage. And then on top of it, to think that he was locked up in 1992 for manslaughter and revoked in 2002 when he did this. Or actually in 2000 when he did this. So somehow he only served a minimum of 8 years, because maybe, I don't know how long he was out till he got revoked, but it's just bizarre. I don't really understand the system. But on or about November 2nd, 2000, the victim, a 13-year-old boy, encountered this defendant on his way to a playground, right? Now, the defendant raced and slapboxed with the victim and told the victim his name was Walter Hannon. So, he's grooming him. He raced with him. He slapboxed with him. The next day, the victim was playing in his front yard area when he was grabbed by the defendant, who covered his mouth and arms. And he dragged him down the street. The defendant then took the victim to the back way. So if you can imagine, the boogeyman does exist. He grabs him, the 13-year-old boy, this hardened felon who just got out of prison for killing another man, grabs this boy and takes him to the back way, to an uninhabited structure located on Samuel Drive. He had a key that he opened the door with. The victim, who weighed about 105 pounds, approximately 5'5", was taken to a dark room by the defendant. The victim was alone in this room with the defendant. Some Vaseline and a towel were already in the room, right? It was just because he had a couple hits of the PCP, right? It turned him into, into this monster. Just it was the couple hits of the PCP. The defendant then performed oral sex on the victim. The defendant then put Vaseline on his own private parts and forced the victim to have with him. The defendant told the victim that he would take his life if he told anyone. The defendant then took Vaseline and a towel with him and left. The victim went home and told his grandmother, who called the police. The victim went into a car with some family members and took the defendant. They encountered the defendant when he came out of the house near the corner where he and the victim had raced just the day before. David Banks, who was the boyfriend of the victim's aunt and one of the persons riding with the victim, got out of the car and asked the defendant for a cigarette, while the aunt tried to get the attention of a nearby law enforcement officer, but the defendant took off running. In the early morning hours of the crime, the victim was taken to St. Francis Medical Center, where they had an examination. They performed physical evidence, was removed from his body. The examining physician observed bruising around the victim's rectum, anus, and there was a tear which had been caused by penile penetration. So apparently that happened as well. The victim told examining physicians that the defendant performed oral on his body and penetrated him anally. Among the other information of the physician noted that the history that he took from the victim was that the victim said the defendant kissed his neck. A couple of days later, the victim showed a photographic lineup by the police. The victim selected the defendant's picture. The victim also gave a recorded statement. Now, in the trial, I'm skipping a little bit. Why he got a attempted and not the full conviction was that on the stand, when they were asking this boy what happened, he denied certain things because it would have been incredibly embarrassing. He said that he didn't get kissed on the neck. He said he didn't give oral, right? Those are things that you can see if someone would say that. And then someone else, a woman, actually came up and as an alibi and said that he was with me. The perpetrator, Walter, was with her, even though it was known that they were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, and that somehow swayed the jury. It's amazing what this jury would find guilty and what they find innocent. Well, they got him attempted. Now, what's interesting about this, what I would like to point out is that he was sentenced really to not that much time. He was sentenced hold on, here it is. He was right. So he to serve 20 years and for the attempted and 5 years for the attempted oral. So 25 years, not the 40 years that what we saw, right? But then on August 22nd, 2002, so a full month after that sentencing, he was found to be a multiple offender. So his original sentence was vacated and he was sentenced to serve 32 years at hard labor for attempted plus 7 years. So a total of, I guess, 39 years. And it was to run consecutive with any sentence. So we have seen so many times where there are people up for parole hearing who have multiple convictions and who don't get the habitual offender. And I bring this up because it drives me nuts when a DA says, well, we didn't want to do trial, we don't want to put the victim through it, but we know that the tool exists where if they are a multiple offender, that you can throw the habitual offender bill at them and give them additional time without doing any court proceedings. So without putting anyone on the stand, and why they don't do that in so many of these cases is beyond me. But in conclusion, he was denied his attempt of getting out of this. So now that you have this additional information, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? Do you feel that he was just he had no idea what happened, just a little bit of PCP, you know? Well, someone let him out. Someone let him out after he took a life after just a few years, and this is what he did. And I don't know. He hasn't seemed to really learn that much while being locked up, and scary to think, but this is why we do this, right?
As a first felony offender, offenses: attempted aggravated rape, aggravated oral sexual battery. Sentencing date July 3rd, 2000. Sentenced to a total of 50 years. Parole date August 1st, 2021. Good time February 19th, 2042. Full term August 19, 2049. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes,
Thank you. Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Mr. Hudson, good morning.
morning.
You're looking around the room. What are you looking for?
I'm just trying to hear.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Hudson, you currently 71 years old. Is that correct?
Yes, 71.
Yeah. And you became eligible when the state passed Act 122 last year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I think so.
And before that, you didn't think that you had a chance for a parole hearing. Is that correct?
Yes,
You've been incarcerated for 22 and a half years of a 50-year sentence. Is that about right?
yes, sir.
So, Mr. Hudson, tell me about the programs that you've taken since your incarceration.
I'm not taking any class, anything. I signed up for some, but I couldn't take them because of my health.
Okay, so you don't have any good time classes?
No, none.
Well, I think some were offered to you and you refused them.
They kept offering me anger
Se-
management. Anger
Sex
management.
offender treatment also, huh?
I'm not understanding what you said.
They offered you sex offender treatment.
I don't know if they did or not.
Yeah,
I know.
my record says that you refused it.
I might have.
Okay. What is your job at the facility?
I work on a job called Crew 30.
Okay, what does Crew 30 do?
I wipe poles with a rag.
Okay. Tell me about your disciplinary issues. You had a 30K in June of 2017. What was that for?
That was intimidation, I believe is what it was called. Intimidation.
Who did you intimidate?
They said I intimidated an officer.
Okay. Tell me about your transition plan.
What is that? I don't understand what that is.
Okay. Where do you plan to live if released, and where do you plan to work?
I'm not going to work anywhere, and I don't have a place to live.
Okay. Have you tried to find a place to live?
Well, I've had people look, but my family's all passed away.
Okay. So, have you ever had a problem with drugs or alcohol?
Never.
Warden, would you like to make any comments, remarks, or observations?
Well, Anthony's been here a few years, Mr. Roche. He did refuse the sex offender training back a few years back, and then we had him in some anger management classes and one other class, but his health has got pretty poor, and he was back and forth to the hospital a lot, and he was kind of unable to attend those on a regular basis. So he's kind of put those off for now, but the sex offender treatment that was offered several years ago, he did in fact refuse that. He's got a good conduct record. He's got a lot of health issues and other things, but he's no problem for staff here. We're trying to get him in the program and trying to get him to participate in that, but we haven't been successful up to this point, especially on the sex offender therapy.
Thank you, Warden Goodwin. I see no other questions. Mr. Risa, would you recognize the participant?
First, we will hear from Ms. Ashley Bostwick, who's a victim.
Are they talking to me?
No.
Ms. Bostwick, would you please unmute your mic?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, give us your statement.
I just wanted to state that Anthony has done drugs. And I've personally never tried drugs until he offered them to me and Tristan and his own daughter, Stephanie, whenever we were all 11. Now, I'm 33 years old now, and it's really hard for me to just speak for myself here because it was, me and his daughter and Tristan were all really close friends. And, we didn't understand that, what he was doing was not only manipulating us, but it was drugging us too. And, I've had issues with my family and issues with drugs and alcohol and rehabs and, a path of destruction in my life because he's introduced that to me. And not only that, but there's trauma. And I've been to so many different counselors and I've had so much counseling because of what he has done and what several other people have done as well. And, I understand. I've looked up the act and why he's even eligible for parole right now because it really upset me. I thought that, he should get the death penalty for what he's done. And that's not an overstatement. That's, I've experienced the past 22 and a half years of my life, and I've had my butt spanked, but I've never had anyone lay their hands on me until Anthony did. And I'm really disappointed that he hasn't taken any classes whatsoever to improve that kind of disease in the mind to hurt a child like that. And I think that it's just horrible, that our lives have been destroyed. And, I used to pray every Christmas to have Stephanie back as my best friend, to have Tristan back as my best friend. I didn't want anything else except to have my friends back. That's horrible. I mean, it tore my family apart. And I have a lot of family that are dead now too. And I know exactly where his daughter is. And I know exactly, that I know that she's alive. He has family alive, and I understand that he might be 71 years old. But I do not understand why I'm from Louisiana, and I do not understand why he would even be eligible for parole to be released, even in bad health, considering everything that he's done wrong. You know, and the reason why I'm on the phone today is for justice to be served for not only me, but for Tristan and for Stephanie, who didn't even show up in front of y'all to tell her part of the story, because I was there with her and I was there with Tristan and I know the story. You know, it wasn't just me and Tristan that were hurt. It was his daughter too, his own blood, his own daughter. And
Thank you,
if she's
Ms.
not going to show up,
Thank
then,
Ms.
I mean, I'll put it out there.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa?
Now we will hear from Miss Tristan Morris.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I too am present in opposition. I also am extremely disappointed that he has refused to seek any help. And as I sat here last night to prepare this speech that I don't have, because I just feel like there's nothing that can be said that can make this right. But, you know, my life too has been affected by addiction and rehab, and I've overcome all of that through counseling and used tools that were provided to me from my family in order to heal. But, you know, there's one thing that can't be healed, and that is the fact that I will never be able to have children because of what this man did to me. You know, and I just don't, I would hate for him to get out. If he can have sexual intercourse and harm his own child, much less her 10 and 11-year-old friends, I don't doubt that he would prey on another child. And the fact that he has done nothing to try to amend this with himself is just validation that he is obviously extremely sick and he doesn't want help. And I'm not here to play God. I'm just here to tell my part. And I just think that he doesn't deserve, especially if he's unwilling to work towards anything, that opportunity to hurt another little girl.
Thank you, Mrs. Morse. Ms. Teresa, do we have any more speakers?
No, sir.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes,
would you like to make a brief closing statement?
no, sir, I have nothing to say.
Is the panel ready to vote? I will vote first. To Ms. Morse and to Ms. Boswick, we have heard your plea. We understand that you're still physically, mentally, and emotionally affected by this crime today. And we understand that your life is much different than it should be because of Mr. Hudson. And we thank you for your participation today. Mr. Hudson, based upon victim opposition, based upon the entire legal community, the judge, the DA's office, the sheriff's office, chief of police, based upon a lack of rehabilitative programs, my vote is to deny your request. Mrs. Wise.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to appreciate the courageous young ladies that came forth today. I really appreciate your courage. Mr. Hudson, my vote is the same for the same reasons already been stated on the record to deny.
Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo the words of Ms. Wise. I believe that the victims were very courageous in being here today and speaking up. Mr. Hudson, you've just, it's as much as I would like to see you get some relief because of your age and other factors, I just can't do it. I just cannot do it. You refused sex offender treatment, which is critical for you to really understand what you've done. I don't think you get what you've done to these young women. And my vote today is likewise the same as Mr. Roche and Ms. Wise, is to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Hudson, you have received 3 votes to deny your request. Your request for early release has been denied. You have a good day.
Okay. So what I wanted to do with this hearing now was dive into Act 122, why it exists, why are roaches like this having the opportunity to have parole. You can see the trauma that it is creating upon his victims. She can't have children because of what he did to her. 3 girls. All she wanted were her best friends that she lost because of this roach. She lost the ability to have children. They lost the ability. They stand up here and he has a chance of parole and you're just saying, why? I finally said, let's go over why. Act 122, we're going to follow the cookie trail and you're not going to be surprised, but you may have a very different perspective if you haven't already on the Parole Project. Legislative reform. This is a Parole Project's website. This is the Parole Project's website. They talk about how they push legislation for all these different acts, including Act 122. This year, the Parole Project initiated and successfully led the fight for parole equity in Louisiana with the passage of what the Advocate and Baton Rouge called one of the most significant pieces of legislation in 2021. Act 122 restores parole eligibility to hundreds of people who have been shut out by the 1997 Truth in Sentencing Law. I don't know. I guess kind of sounds good. They're like heroes. There's so much corruption in sentencing, you know. They're doing legislation reform. Wow, they're real heroes. Let's look at Act 122. Here it is. Don't worry, it gets worse. We're going to follow the cookie trail. Here's the bill. Here's the legislation that the Parole Project pushed. And you wonder why? Well, why would they push it? Well, remember, they were created as a non-for-profit to help inmates that get out of prison. But they're not going to be that busy if there's not enough inmates getting out of prison, right? So they'll have to pass legislation to get out of prison, to help people get out of prison. So this bill, this piece of paper states that anybody, this is their criteria, to be eligible, it means that you have to have served at least 20 years of the term or term of imprisonment in actual custody and upon reaching the age of 45. So that's all. You have to have served at least 20 years of your sentence, and you have to be at least the age of 45. Now, the provision shall not apply to a person serving a life sentence unless the sentence has been commuted to a fixed term of years, And then here's something interesting that was redacted, but it really means that they pushed this bill. Under the provision of this paragraph shall not apply to any person who has been convicted of a crime of violence or a sex offense crime. So it's like, it actually looked like they did care, right? But no, this was redacted. It includes people of these crimes. Isn't that strange? Well, I wonder why. I wonder what the drama. Who is it that decided to strike this from the bill? Is it the Parole Project that initially included this in the bill, and it was struck? We don't really know. So since we don't know, we have to assume it was the Parole Project. But look at this one too. This is the most bizarre one, I think. No person shall be eligible for parole consideration who has been convicted of armed robbery. Why would that, like, armed robbery is so bad compared to everything else you're doing, but they struck that too. So basically they struck everything to basically say that everyone is eligible. And they state that you have to inform the victim's family. The victim family shall be notified whenever the offender is to be released. So then you can say, well, how much money is really in this? That it's so worth it for the Parole Project. And that's where we go here. This is the Louisiana, I don't know, I think it's an official government Louisiana website. And here it is. Gosh, the problem is that I'm having is I'm trying to zoom in, but it's like a weird website, so it doesn't want to. So we'll just do it. But as of 2021, the Department of Corrections has awarded 17 grants totaling over $13 million over 3 years to community organizations who have participated in the following parishes. So this is only as of 2021. $13 million was up for grabs for the Community Incentive Grant Program. You can imagine that in the past 2 years, it probably was a lot of money. In other words, even if the Parole Project is getting, I don't know, we only know of, I think, 2 or maybe 3 that show up, but really the Parole Project's the biggest one. So I don't know, are they making $5 million a year? Are they doing $6 million a year? Are they 50% of that? Is it now? But let's put it this way. They have a big staff. They have a big team. They're making, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, they're making millions and millions and millions of dollars a year. So you follow the cookie trail, follow the money, and now we know who truly to thank when these monsters come up for parole and put the victims through all of this pain. It's simply through initiatives, legislation. So, and this whole initiative is driven by the state of Louisiana that has a goal of reducing their overall cost of housing inmates. So I'll just share that with you just to share what a joke the whole thing really is. As a part of the justice reinvestment legislation in 2017, the portion of saving attribution and criminal justice reform has been allocated, and they talk about incentives and grants. But really, what they're doing is they're just putting taxpayer money, instead of saying that it's in the DOC, they're just giving it a different name. Do you get that? The money is still being paid, but instead of going to the publicly traded prisons like Angola, publicly traded, by the way, the money is just going from one pocket to a different pocket. And then it's the government of Louisiana that says, look what great job we've done. We have dropped the cost of housing criminals and DOC by 10%. And that is the number, 10%. Reinvesting Louisiana justice. The Louisiana Justice Reinvestment Task Force and a bipartisan group comprised of law enforcement, court practitioners, community members, and legislators found that Louisiana correction system was producing low public safety returns at high cost. We're working to change that. We're going to decrease in the numbers of prison. The overall goal over the next decade of saving $262 million, 10%. And they're just shuffling the money. 70% of savings, an estimated $184 million, will be invested into programs and policies proven to reduce recidivism and support victims of crime. And that $184 million, I presume, is the money that goes into the Steve Hoyle programs, into all the programs that we're talking about all the time, including the Parole Project. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So we know who to think when the survivors, the victims, the family members of people like this Roach, who was literally destroying their lives as he was their biological father, why he's tormenting them through that, just follow the money cookie trail. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm not professional. What do I know? You know, the way he sounded like the character out of the Family Guy, the popsicles in my cellar, a classic Roach. Really. Can't make it up.
Applied as a fifth felony offender. Offenses: forcible rape, aggravated burglary. Sentencing date January 16, 2002. Sentenced to a total of 40 years. Parole date August 1st, 2021. Good time, not eligible. Full term March 14th, 2041. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, before Ms. Jackson speaks, let me just get this out of the way here. Mr. Percy, Ms. Jackson was the sentencing judge in your case. I assume you're aware of that.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any objections to her sitting on this panel and hearing your case?
No, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
sir.
we'll continue for the record. We'll continue with the process. Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Lane Hart.
How you doing, man?
It's been a while.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to be starting the questioning for the panel this evening. I just want to get some information from you, so I just want you to relax and we'll discuss your situation. You're 64 years old, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're classified as a fifth felony offender. You are serving a 40-year sentence, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much of that sentence have you actually served?
About 20. I know I did over 20. Over 20.
Okay, so we'll just say 20 plus.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your file indicates that you have a pretty extensive criminal history. I was looking at your juvenile record and you had 10 separate arrests from March 17 of 1969 until April 4th of 1969. Do you remember that period of time from March to April of 1969? When you were getting into all that trouble as a juvenile?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what was going on? Why were you in so much trouble as a juvenile?
I ain't had nothing to do at that time. You
Okay, how far did you go in school?
can't.
Okay. Did you ever go to LTI?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long were you in LTI?
About 6 months.
Okay. And then I show from April the 8th of 1970 to November 13th of 1973. Still while you were juvenile, you were arrested 6 more times. So did you go to LTI after before or after 1970?
Oh. I can't remember, man.
Okay, that's okay. And then as an adult, you had quite a few arrests. A lot of them were for burglaries,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were actually serving time on one of those burglary charges when a DNA hit came up that connected you with the rape that you're serving time for now. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You're already in jail for something, and then they ran DNA, they identified it as yours, and you ended up pleading guilty, or did you plead guilty to the rape charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what happened during the rape. Did you know the victim?
No, ma'am.
Okay, tell us what happened.
At that time, I was on drugs at that time, and
How old
you know,
were you?
you know,
About?
see about 39, 40, I guess. I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
you weren't a youngster.
No, man.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
But then I broke into one of my house.
How'd you get in her house? Do you remember how you got in her house?
I had took a piece of window pane out.
Okay.
That. But I went in the, house.
What time of the night was this?
It was early. It must have been about, I see about 7, 8 o'clock, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, you think it was that early? Or that late?
I knew it was pretty late.
Okay. How did you end up picking her as your victim?
I really wasn't picking her. I just was walking at that time. And I wanted some drugs at the time. And, you know, I went through an alley on the side of the house. When I went through the alley on the side of the house, you know, I spotted her house. And I just went on over there.
Okay. What were your intentions when you went over there?
My intention was go in there and get some money out of there, get a purse where I can give me some drugs. But it didn't end up that way
How did it end up being a rape?
because she was laying in bed. And when she seen me come in the house, she went to howling and trying to, you know, rebel, fight, you know.
But I mean, obviously, you must have gone over and touched her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have anything to fight about.
Yes, ma'am. I did touch her.
All right. Right. I don't really need to hear the details of the rape itself. But what I did know is that there was another time you were arrested for a burglary. But there was an allegation of rape connected to that. It was sometime in 1979, 78, 79. There was another burglary where you were accused of rape, but you ended up pleading guilty to simple battery and criminal mischief. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What happened in that case? Briefly.
It wasn't no trying to rape involved, you know.
Well, but you were accused of that, and you ended up pleading guilty to a simple battery and a criminal mischief. You got arrested for rape.
Yes, ma'am, but they couldn't prove it.
Okay, I didn't ask you whether
No.
they could prove it. I'm asking you what happened because you were there.
They tried to put a rape charge on me.
Okay, all right, that's not, we won't go any further than that. Have you taken sex offender treatment?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I put in a couple of times. I ain't never heard nothing.
Well, do you understand that there's no way that we could even consider releasing you if you haven't taken all 4 phases of sex offender treatment?
I didn't know it at the time. I know now.
Well, Warren, do y'all offer sex offender treatment at your facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, Mr. Lanehart, there's no way on earth we would even consider releasing you without your having taken sex offender treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not sure why you weren't were you ever referred to sex offender treatment? Because you're in jail on a sex offense. And usually that's the routine. You get referred to sex offender treatment. Were you ever referred to sex offender treatment?
I ain't never heard nothing.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lanehart. That's all I have, Mr. Kelsey.
All right. Do you have any input, Warden? No, sir. Thank you. Would you like to make a statement on your behalf, Mr. Percy?
Well, all I got to say, I don't learn through the years I've been locked up. And I like to apologize to the victim. I'm doing what I did. I'm very sorry. I'm trying to be a better person when I get out. Take these sex offender classes. What else? That's it.
Hey, thank you. Now prepared to vote? Ms. Jackson?
Yes. Mr. Lanehart, I don't know how you fell through the cracks or how you weren't advised at some point that you needed to take sex offender classes, but that's an absolute necessity in your case. And so today I'm going to vote to deny you, and I'm going to encourage you to enroll in and complete all phases of sex offender treatment and then reapply when you're eligible. But my vote today is to deny.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Renatson?
I do agree, Mr. Percy. You need the sex offender treatment, so my vote today is to deny because of the lack of sex offender treatment. And I too encourage you to enroll and complete all the phases of that program and reapply when you're eligible to do so. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
And I vote to deny your parole for the same reasons as stated. 3 votes to deny your parole's been denied. Good luck to you.
Sorry, Miss Jackson. Don't you? I love Miss Jackson. You know, she was his judge, and she gave a strong sentence. 40 years. We don't see that all the time, right? It's always nice to see Miss Jackson. Court hearings, Richard actually puts the notation. Miss Judge Jackson sentenced him. And hey, isn't that interesting? He never took a program. You don't know if he's lying or if it's actually true that he somehow fell through the cracks. But I think it's a pretty good thing, right? I mean, he's a repeat offender. Wow. It wasn't his first time getting caught. So how many times do you think he did it? Probably technically would be considered in a serial, if you can finish the rest of the words. And that's a scary thought. That is a scary thought. It was funny how Miss Jackson started the conversation. It's Mr. Leonard, it's been a while. And to think when she hit down that gavel and gave the sentence and he goes off and he just sits there staring at his cell walls for all those years while the world goes by. At least we can know that.
Classified as a second felony offender, offense forceful rape. Sentencing date, March 23rd, 1999. sentenced to a total of 30 years. Parole date, August 1st, 2021. Good time, April 14, 2025. Full term, September 8th, 2031. Is this information correct, sir?
Is that correct?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Marabello.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lafab, my name is Tony Marabella. Your case was assigned to me, so I will initially begin talking with you. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Let me see. I'm having a little trouble seeing you. Okay, good. Thank you. Mr. Lafab, how old are you, sir?
48,
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
almost 22 years.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your educational background.
My educational background, I got 3 boat techs.
Yeah, before you came to prison, how far
Oh.
did you go in high school?
9th grade,
Okay.
dropped
Did you
out.
ultimately get your GED?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of work did you do before you came to prison?
I worked for like merchandising, stocker. I worked at a sawmill. When I got locked up, I was working at Kroger as a night stocker.
Okay. Tell me why you're in prison right now.
I'm in prison on a rape charge.
Okay, well, tell me about it. Tell me what you did.
Yeah, well, we were wrestling and I got excited. One thing led to another. I held her down and raped her. That's pretty much sums it up.
Well, that was one time?
Yeah, no, they said it was 2 times. One time.
They said, what did you do?
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
that was
care
twice.
what they said.
Yeah, it was twice. Yes, sir, it was twice.
It's my understanding it was multiple times between the time she was 9 and 11 years old.
Yes, sir.
More than 2.
Yes, sir.
What kind of thought have you given to what you did while you've been in prison? Tell me about it.
I gave it a lot of thought. That's probably one of the worst things a human can do. I've done everything I can since I've been here to better myself. I'll pay for it. I've hurt a lot of people, and I understand that deeply. But I can't change it. All I can do is move forward. And I'm very sorry for what happened. It's hard. It is. I paid for it for the last 22 years I've been locked up. I don't hardly have no people no more.
How do you think your niece has paid for this since you've been locked up?
Probably the same way I've been dealing with it. I know it's very hard on them. I understand.
You think your niece is dealing with this the same way you're dealing with being in prison?
Probably not.
Do you know do you realize what you did to that young girl?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, tell me what.
I took her dignity from her, for one. I can't. She'll always have that in her memory, always, till she dies. And I know that's hard. It really is.
Tell me what kind of programs you've taken since you've been in prison.
I've been in AA, NA, 12 steps. I've been through culinary arts, Votech. I've been through auto body.
You've done a lot of educational things. You've done a lot of things to better yourself, so when you get out, you'll be able to work and you'll have a job and stuff like that, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you taken sex offender treatment?
Oh, I can't get to a camp that has it. I've been up for clemency in 2017 when I was in Winfield. And they sent us here because they shut it down and they don't have it here. And I've been writing to try to get somewhere where I can get it. And I ain't been able to get there.
What courses have you taken? Have you taken any sort of victim awareness courses?
Yes, back in Winfield, I went through victims awareness.
And tell me what you learned through that.
I learned really what the victims go through. That's what they was teaching us there.
I'm sorry, what?
what the victims, how they react to the things that was done to them.
Tell me about AA and NA. Why did you take those courses?
They put me in them. I took them. I did have a drug problem when I was young.
Well, tell me about your drug problem. What kind of drugs did you use?
I used cocaine.
When did you start using cocaine?
I was about 17.
And how often were you using cocaine?
About every 3 days.
And how long did you do that?
About 4 years.
You weren't using cocaine
No.
when you began to rape this young woman, were you? Can you, I mean, you told me y'all were wrestling and this led to another. I don't believe that's what happened. You want to tell me a little more about emotionally what was going on with you and why you did this?
Well, actually, I had, at the time, I guess you could say I had a problem. I really didn't know how to.
What was your problem?
See, I like to have sex. I mean, that's,
with 9-year-olds?
that is, I know that's not right. It's really not.
Do you see why it's very important that you take sex offender treatment? It may not be your fault that you didn't do it, but I don't believe I can possibly let you out without you going through some significant sex offender treatment and really understanding your problem.
I understand that, sir, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
Have you had any mental health evaluations since you've been in prison?
They kind of went through it at Winfield. I ain't never been to DOC. I mean, they had a mental health department there for a while.
And did they diagnose you with anything? Did you?
They called. No, they didn't. They called me up there to ask me all types of questions. Okay. That was pretty much it.
Now, when you committed this offense and you were arrested, did you bond out? Or did you stay in prison?
No, I've been in prison ever since.
You've been in prison since your arrest?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lafab, there's nothing you can do about what I'm about to tell you, but I just want you to know that you've got complete law enforcement opposition against your release. You have strong victim opposition about your release. It appears to me that you've done a lot of things while you've been in prison to kind of better your education. You've taken college courses, you've done a lot of those things, and that's good. That really is good. But I don't think you've gotten to the core of your problem. And you've been in prison for 22 years, and I'm not exactly sure why you haven't been able to take sex offender treatment in the last 22 years. I mean, I understand now, last couple of years, COVID, everything has been put on hold, but I don't know why you weren't able to do that earlier. And that to me is critical. And I'm going to sit back and see if any of my colleagues have any questions. And if not, we'll kind of move forward. So that's all the questions that I have of you. I don't believe, Ms. Teresa, do we have any visitors?
We only have Mr. Derek Johnson, Rapides ADA.
Okay, we can hear from Mr. Johnson.
You want to hear from me right now, sir?
Yes, I think we're ready, Mr. Johnson. If you would introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to hear.
My name is Derek Johnson, Assistant District Attorney right here at Rapides Parish District Attorney's Office. It is the wish of our office and as well as the victim that the inmate serve out the remainder of his sentence, which he'll be released in 2032. He was originally charged with aggravated rape, and it was mitigated down to forcible rape. Even to this day, just watching him, his demeanor doesn't show that he has any remorse for his actions. Very nonchalant about it, wanted to blame it on wrestling. I don't think he understands the severity of the actions and consequences that the victim has to go through to this day right now. For me, interacting with her last month when she came in for the 90 minutes that she came in and read the file. She's still very much tormented and very much affected by what was done to her at such a young age. And as a father and also as an uncle, you entrusting somebody, with watching your child, and I think he abused that trust from that young lady. And like I said, we are strongly opposed to him getting released early. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Very well said, sir.
Thank
you. Mr. Lafab, is there anything you'd like to say before the panel votes?
Only thing I want to say, as far as y'all, I would really like to go get this treatment. And if there's any possible way of y'all to help me get where I need to go to get this treatment, I'm trying to do whatever I can to get out of here. I do need that. I would like to take it. I've been trying to get it, but I can't ever get nowhere to get it. If there's any possible way, I really would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Lafab. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Lafab, in speaking with you, this is a horrible crime. No question about it. I don't think, I agree with Mr. Johnson, I don't think that you accept the absolute horror of what you did to this young woman. You're right. You started out by saying, oh, we were just wrestling around, and then all of a sudden, boom. And you said it was once, then you said it was maybe twice, and then the record shows it was multiple times. This was a horrible, horrible crime. That doesn't mean that when someone commits a horrible crime, they should never be released. It simply means that while they're in prison, they have to acknowledge the severity of the crime and the consequences and the horror that it's caused on the victims. Internally, you have to understand that. That's the first step in making sure you don't repeat this. Now, I'm not sure why in 22 years you haven't taken any sex offender treatment programs. You do not seem to have the understanding of what you did and what your consequences are. You've taken a lot of programs that are educational, and that's good. But you haven't done anything to combat, or at least to show me that you have some skills now and some tools now, and you've kind of come to grips with what the issue is. You haven't done that. I'm hoping that a sex offender treatment program and other programs that you can look internally about, MRT, Thinking for a Change, those sorts of programs that you can get into so you can look deeply into your heart and try to figure out not only what you did and why you did it, but what you've done to this young woman. That would be your first step in rehabilitation. And I just don't think you're there yet. So based upon that, law enforcement opposition, absolute victim over the board opposition, family opposition to your release, in the lack of having taken sex offender treatment, my vote today is to deny and hope that you can get into some programs that'll help you. Even if you can't get transferred to get into sex offender treatment now, take whatever programs there are for self-enrichment where you are now. So my vote today is to deny. Good luck to you. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Christopher, I realize, I'm not sure you realize that we are in a pandemic. So programs and movements, it's just not available. It's just not available because of the pandemic. I concur with my colleague. My vote is to deny for the reasons already been clearly stated on the record. If you got somebody that can send you books that you can read, you're gonna have to find some workarounds in this pandemic. But best wishes to you, sir. My vote is to deny.
Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lafab, you have wasted the last 22 years of your life. Your rehabilitation has not even started. When you say a statement, get me to a place where I can take sex offender, I want to get out of here. You don't want it for your rehabilitation. You don't want it because you won't understand what you did to the victim. You just want to get out. And sex offender treatment is not going to do you any good because you have the wrong motivation. You're sick. You need help. You don't need to get out to get complete sex offender treatment. To get out, you need sex offender treatment so you can understand what your problem is. And hopefully, when you understand what your problem is, you won't do it again. Think about what I've said overnight, and let's start your rehabilitation tomorrow morning. Based upon the entire legal community, the judge, the DA's office, the sheriff's office, the chief of police, victim, opposition from your family saying that you shouldn't be released. And they like of rehabilitative programs. My vote is to deny your request, and hopefully tomorrow morning you will start rehabilitating yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Lafab, you received 3 votes to deny your parole. Your parole has been denied. We've given you some suggestions that might be able to help you. But as we've all 3 of us have stated, it's up to you to look internally to figure out what's going on with you and not simply just to try to do some programs to get out of jail. So good luck to you, sir. Your parole has been denied.
All right.
Another cockroach. And this guy, wow, he just has a face that you just want to, I don't know, for me, it's like another caricature of just the type of person who you would expect to do that type of crime. It was nice to see the ADA show up. Thank you, sir. I'm not sure what Mr. Marabella meant when he said I disagree with him, because I thought he said he misspoke. I thought he spoke well, and Mr. Marabella said he spoke well. And it's great to see an ADA show up, and not just show up, but he's meeting with the survivor, the victim. He's expressing it on behalf of her. It's not just a meaningless statement. What a difference it makes. He literally, we're looking at a man in this roach, a monster that has no empathy, that has no understanding, and bored. There's no number of programs that he can ever take that will make him better. It's not going to ever happen. The only possible outcome, in my opinion, is that he will learn what to say to get parole. And I don't know if the board knows that, or if they have so wasted on their own Kool-Aid that they do believe the programs will help. I wonder. I really do. But yeah, like Mr. Roche said, oh, it's beautiful. You've wasted 22 years of your life. And sadly, it's been the best 22 years of his life because he hasn't been able to hurt a child. From 9 to 11 years old. That's what we know about. His own niece. And he says, man, it's been really hard on me. Mr. Marabella, I loved it. He jumped in there. How hard do you think it's been on your victim? Oh, it's been hard. And then the way he says it and what he says is just added creepy factor. I took her virginity. He's got this big smile on his face, like he's reliving it. Why do you think it is that you do this? I like to have sex. With the 9-year-old? Mr. Marabella jumps in. With the 9-year-old? We all were thinking, what? Who says that? My problem is I like to have sex. What? Thank God his family's opposed. That's great to hear. He's got nothing. He's got nothing left. But you know the sad part? The sad part is that his full term is 2031. It's 2023. That is 8 years. 8 years. 8 years and he will be free. 8 years and he will be out to reoffend again. And yeah, I know he got a good sentence, 33 years. We don't see that often. But man, you know, it's just, how do you protect society from a monster? How old is he? He is 50. That's young. I mean, he'll be 58. You got to be kidding me. 68, 78, 88. I mean, even if he doesn't make it to 90, you could be talking about 20 years. Like a minimum of it's just scary to think, like, why a monster that does this to a little girl from 9 to 11 doesn't get life is nuts, because you cannot risk that when it gets out, what's gonna happen next? How do you flip a coin and say, let's see what happens? How can you just rely on that he's not going to find another victim? You think everyone goes onto the registry? No. Actually, most people don't. I have never looked anyone up on the registry. Might go on it out of curiosity, but like to look someone up that you know? But this is the system. And 33 years, we know if we've been seeing this long enough, that's a blessing. That's a long sentence. Yep. You might not believe it if you didn't see it.
First felony offender offense, forcible rape and aggravated incest. Sentencing date, May 7, 2001. Sentenced to a total of 40 years. Parole date, August 1st, 2021. Good time, not eligible. Full term, May 2nd, 2041. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gillery, my name is Tony Marabella. I'm going to be asking you a few questions today. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gillery, how old are you, sir?
I'm 56.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
20, almost 21 years.
Are you currently working while you're in prison?
Yes, sir. I'm a tutor in the education building.
You're a what? I'm sorry, tutor?
A tutor, academic tutor, yes, sir.
Okay, and how long have you been an academic tutor?
It's going on about 5 years. I started at Allen. I was at Allen.
And what do you do as an academic tutor?
I teach M-level math, reading, and language to help people get their GED or ISET now.
What sort of work did you do on the outside?
I was various things. I was a truck driver, a mechanic. I worked as a seismograph technician on a seismograph boat searching for oil.
Okay. What sort of programs have you taken while you've been in prison?
Oh, quite a few. Have AA, NA, substance abuse, anger management, stress management. I've had a cage rage, parenting, 5 phases of risk academy, risk offender. I can't remember the name of it. I'm nervous.
Sex offender treatment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Eric Cohen.
Of the 21 years you've been in prison, what programs or what things have you learned that have really resonated with you?
I guess mainly I got a degree in theological studies. I was just talking to chaplain here about it. Let's get it Warden. And I've come to more grips with my Christianity, I guess you could say, with Christ.
Tell me about that.
Excuse me?
Tell me about that.
I just, I guess I just got, I've looked at my life. I don't know, the way my life was going, everything was just turned around. I don't know, everything was just backwards.
Tell me what you mean by that.
It's like I couldn't get anything straight.
Do you know why?
No, I really can't tell you.
21 years later, you can't figure out what was going on with you back then?
Well, as far as what happened in my life.
Well, right now I'm asking you about what you've learned while you've been in prison for 21 years. You said I've got Christ. I said okay. And you said I've looked back and things were kind of backwards. So what do you mean by that? I want to know what you
that's
in the 21 years what you've been doing.
I just don't know how to explain. Mostly it was a relationship problem, I guess. Now
what is a
better
relationship?
friends, better relationships.
What do you mean relationship problem?
Which was really the same thing I was having problems with in my marriage. I just didn't. I don't know. I guess I couldn't communicate well with my wife. I was having problems with my friends, communicating with them. And since I've been in jail, I guess because I've been around so many different personalities in prison, it's changed my.
So what is the one thing? What is the one thing if you got one takeaway from the 21 years you've been in prison? What is the thing that you kind of thought about the most?
Learning how to deal with people and to work.
How about what you did to your daughter?
Well, obviously.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Oh, okay.
Tell me how that even happened.
That was basically behind the relationship in my marriage. That was, I hate to say it, but it was kind of like a revenge against my wife. That's the only thing I can.
So in 21 years, what have you thought about what you've done to your daughter?
I'm terribly
I
sorry
didn't hear you
about it.
say anything about that, and that's what I was hoping you were gonna talk about.
I said, I'm so nervous right now. I don't know what to say.
I understand you're nervous, and I appreciate that. But
And I
you've been
get
in
hurt.
prison, you've been in prison for 21 years because you have committed some horrible offenses against your daughter. And I would have thought the first thing out of your mouth is how sorry you are for what you've done. But I haven't heard that yet. You're blaming everybody else. Oh, marital problems, this and that. I'm trying to find out what you've learned in 21 years.
Sir, I didn't know that's where you were going with this. I didn't understand.
Well, I'm just asking questions.
But yeah, of course, I'm not sorry for myself. I'm sorry I'm in jail, of course, but yeah, I'm sorry for what it did to her and my son. I mean,
And what do
they
you
had
think
to
it's
live
done?
without a parent.
What do you think it's done to her?
There's no way to understand what it might have done to her. I don't know.
In 21 years and taking all of the sex offender treatment that you've taken and facilitating sex offenders, you have no answer for what the horrible things that this young girl might have experienced?
Personally, I can't fathom what she experienced. I don't know. I mean, I can't, I don't know. I just have no way of understanding what she might have experienced. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to explain how I think she would feel.
So how long did this go on?
A couple of months, I don't know.
And your daughter was how old?
5.
5 years old.
Yes, sir.
Are there any classes that you took have you taken victim awareness?
No, sir. It was never offered to me.
You said you've taken AA and NA and substance abuse. Have you had a drinking or drug issue?
A little bit of a drug issue when I was out there, yes.
Did you say you did have or didn't have? I'm sorry.
I did, yes, sir. With
What
drugs.
kind of drugs did you use and how often?
Marijuana. That was, I don't know, that was years before I got married.
Did drugs or alcohol play any part in this crime?
No, sir.
Have you had any mental health evaluation or have you had any sort of treatment for mental health issues?
No, sir.
When you were arrested, did you go straight to jail and bound over for trial, or were you out on bond?
I went out on bond for 2 years.
How long were you out on bond before your actual trial or disposition of your case?
It was right about 2 years.
During that 2-year period of time, did you get any sort of psychological evaluation or any
Yes, I
sort
did.
of what did you get? What kind of
The
evaluation?
psychological evaluation. I was putting myself and my wife and my children into, we went to therapy, psychological therapy.
And so, well, tell me what you learned in therapy, if anything.
I learned that I was a horrible pig and I did something bad to my daughter.
Okay. And was there any suggestions
I
of
don't know.
things that you might be able to do to be able to overcome some of these things?
Yes, talk to a friend before I decide to act out on anything.
As a result of the counseling, did you take any kind of medication of any sort?
I had taken Zoloft for depression for a little while.
Now, you and your wife and your daughter was what, 5, 6, 7 years old at the time, right?
Right.
Did you do any individual counseling besides counseling with your family?
Right, no, mine was individual with him.
Okay.
And then he
Well-
also did counseling with them
And
separate.
what sort of things did your counselor suggest to you? Did y'all discuss the effects of what you did on your daughter?
I'm sure we did. That was 22 years ago. I don't remember everything he said. I don't remember what I had 4 or 5 notebooks full of notes, but I can't remember all that.
Now, you were sentenced to 40 years and you've done what, 20, how many years? 20, 21 years?
20 and a half, yes, sir.
20 and a half years. Have you been in prison? What's your disciplinary record like?
I've had 2 write-ups in the last 20 years.
Warden, can you tell us anything about Mr. Gillery?
Not really familiar with this offender. I know that he works, he's a tutor, which is another job that's needed in the institution to prepare offenders, not only to release back into society, but to help build their character and aptitude while incarcerated. Not really familiar with him. So I would let his record speak for him.
Okay.
Can't really give a character witness because I'm not really familiar with it.
Mr. Gillery, you've got law enforcement opposition and you have victim opposition. There's nothing you can do about that. I just want to kind of alert you to that. I'm going to sit back and see if any of my colleagues have any questions. I see Mr. Roche has his hand up. Mr. Roche, you have some questions of Mr. Gillery?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Gillery. How are you?
Not too good right now.
Well, I sat intently listening to Mr. Marabella interview you, and you are still in denial. You are still in denial. You're not taking responsibility for what you did to your daughter. When he asked you how old your daughter was, you said 5. She was 3 when you started the abuse. When he asked you how long, 2 or 3 months, you abused your daughter 3 or 4 times a week for an entire year. I'm reading from the indictment. The offenses happened between October 1st, 1998 and September 1st, 1999, an entire year. And she was at the age of 3 or 4. Your own family, the victim's family, is not certain whether you should be released or not because they still don't understand what you did to your family. Your daughter has 2 children now. She would not give an opinion. She would not oppose or she would not give her opinion. But she did state that she is in fear for her children. She is in fear for herself because she is still physically, mentally, and emotionally affected by what you did. But she would not oppose. But members of your family are in opposition. When are you going to take full responsibility for what you did? A father is booked with a responsibility. He is given the responsibility of taking care and protecting his children. You gave an excuse. Your relationship with your wife was not going the way you wanted to go. So you had a relationship with your daughter. No child should be burdened with the responsibility of satisfy their father's sexual needs. And you have not taken responsibility 20 years later. I'm going to get off my soapbox. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. I don't see any further questions. Ms. Teresa, I don't believe we have any speakers, do we?
That is correct.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gillery, is there anything you'd like to say to the panel before we vote?
Other than I confessed, I mean, and yes, I do take responsibility. If I wasn't honest, I wouldn't be in jail. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get denied, but you know, I just want to let you know I do accept responsibility. I did that from the beginning. I just didn't know. I just don't know how to answer questions like this.
Anything else you'd like to say, Mr. Gillery?
I guess not. I don't have anything else I can say other than the fact that Katie doesn't want me out. That's fine. I'll stay in jail. Really, her opinion is to me, her opinion is first before anyone else, even in here, yours, anybody. Her opinion is first. If she doesn't want me out of jail, I'll stay here.
Mr. Marabella, may I clear up one thing?
Yes.
The victim of this crime is not opposed to your release. She says she's going to defer to the decision of the board. Your daughter is not opposed to your release. She has some reservations about her two children, which she stated in her statement, she is not opposed to your release. And I want you to understand that. Thank you, Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Gillery, anything else you'd like to say?
No, sir.
Mr. Gillery, you know, when we have these hearings, we're looking at a lot of factors. And one of the main things that we're looking at is not necessarily what the person did, but how has the person dealt with what they've done? Who are they today? You know, you say you accept responsibility and you say, hey, look, I'm in jail. But, you know, I don't think you've accepted responsibility personally and morally for what you've done. Yeah, you're in jail, you're serving your time, you're doing the right thing that good prisoners do, I guess. But you haven't accepted truly what you've done in this case. You know, I asked you how long it took. I wasn't going to argue with you because I read the record. I knew how long you did this. I knew you weren't telling me the truth. All of the questions I asked you, I had all of the answers for. And you never responded appropriately. I didn't start my questioning of you. One of the things I was really concerned about is how you felt about what you had done. And that's why I opened my questions with, what have you been thinking all of this time? What's been going on with you? I had hoped and expected you to say, my God, what a horrible thing I did to my daughter. But I didn't hear that. And I hear you still fighting with that, saying, well, if she's okay, I'm okay, I guess is what I'm hearing.
No, that's
You
not
really
okay.
need more programs, and you really do need to look internally at what you've done and why you did it. You got counseling at the beginning. That's a good thing. I don't know why it stopped. I don't know what developed there. I couldn't get very much information out of you. Like Mr. Roche said, I'm going to get off my soapbox. You've got law enforcement opposition. You have the crime that you committed was horrible. You've only spent about 50% of your sentence in prison. My vote today is to deny you. Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Gillery, based upon opposition from your family and the victim's family, opposition from law enforcement, and a lack of responsibility for your crime, and I want you to understand this, the victim in this crime did not voice an opinion one way or the other whether or not she should be released. And I want you to understand that. If you understand nothing else today, it is a member of your family who voiced the opposition, and it was not the victim. Thank you, Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Ms. Wise?
Sir, I've listened intently to the discussions here, and I've had the opportunity to look at your daughter's beautiful face, and I really want to extend just peace and freedom to you. Just wishing you all the best as you go forward in life. You had nothing to do with this. But as a retired probation parole officer, and I was a sex offender officer for quite a few years, I heard that a lot of times from guys that they abuse their daughter as a way, or their children in the household as a way of getting back at their wife. And I know that that is deep. That's a lot. There's a lot going on. And you need to unpack that, because that's going to rear its head again. Now, that's what Mr. Marabella is saying. You really need to reflect. You really need to get deep and go and flesh all that out while you can, while you're in prison, and you can take classes and ask for counseling. You can do that while you're here, because like I said, I heard that a lot. It sounds very familiar to me. But my vote is the same for the same reasons that's been already stated on the record, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Gillery, you have 3 votes to deny your parole. Good luck to you, sir.
Cockroach. How do we unpack this? When you think you've seen it all, right? How many times do I have to say that when you think you've seen it all? I'm gonna blur her face, but she has like an angelic look, almost like a porcelain doll, but very stoic. And I think Mr. Roche repeated it over and over again, that she's not opposed. I think if I'm understanding he's correctly, he's trying to take any potential guilt that the daughter might have away, and he's making sure that she is not in any way carrying that burden. Of course, there should be no guilt, but I think that's where Mr. Roche is coming from. And when he said And he heard, I believe he heard entirely that Mr. O'Shea says she's not opposed or unopposed. But he still tried to make that attempt at manipulation at the end by saying, oh, if she wants me out or she doesn't. He knew he was just trying to say, oh, well, if she's not opposed, then I should get out. That was another way of him saying it. Most offenders, like 9, maybe all except this one, does start the hearing by saying something pretty baseless, like, I regret the actions that I did. He didn't even do that. Not, I regret the actions that I did, actually. They always say, I regret what happened, or I wish it didn't happen. Of course, he found God in Christianity. He got a degree in theological studies. He thought the warden was the preacher. He's learned a lot about different personalities in prison. And Mr. Marabella comes and said, how about what you did to your daughter? And he really acts like he did. Oh, my daughter. And when he drills down to it, finally, he says, I couldn't believe what I heard. It was revenge against my wife. What? What? Revenge against your wife? What did I just hear? And then when he drills down into it and he says, well, what do you think this caused to your children? What do you think this did to your children? And he was cut off as he was saying this, but he said, I am sorry that they had to live without one parent. Are you kidding me? You're sorry that they had to live without one parent? That's what you did to your children? And then he says that she was 5 years old. And then we find out from Mr. O'Shea that she was 3 years old. And that the abuse happened for multiple years. 3 to 4 times a week for multiple years. Can you imagine when it's like lying that she's 5 versus 3 and you think it's better? A 3-year-old baby. Watching this hearing, I just wanted to rip through the screen. I just wanted to grab him. And I was only getting more fired up by seeing Miss Wise come in and just like nod at the most inappropriate times. I don't get that. I'm not going to harp on her. That Mr. O'Shea actually has to say, no father should carry the burden of satisfying his needs through his child. And again, I think Mr. O'Shea was doing that just so that the daughter, and I should have seen, she shed a few tears when Mr. O'Shea was saying these things. And then, hearing the denial from them, you could see that it had an effect. She didn't know what was coming. What would you do to stop yourself from doing this again in the future? Oh, I would talk to a friend before I do anything. And then the warden goes on and says that he's a tutor and that he helps inmates build character. And he's like, are you kidding me? Come on, really? This is how you're helping inmates build character? These are the guys that you're relying on to tutor and help inmates as they prepare to get out. And he got 40 years. He did a plea deal, but to think that he got 2 years out of jail before he was sentenced. And then he took a plea deal for 40 years. But where the hell is the DA? Where are you? Do you not have any pride? Do you not have any? Did you only take this position so you can have your few years as a assistant DA or district attorney? You can then retire and open up your law firm. Is that what it is? Because I think that most of it, with there are a few exceptions we see. We know who they are. But all the others, they don't care. They don't care about children. They don't care about their constituency. They don't care about the survivors. They don't care. Because if there was any case that we have seen where it was absolutely critical for a DA to be in the room to make a statement, it was this one. The daughter is sitting there alone. The survivor is sitting there alone, carrying all of that baggage, and no one was there to speak on her behalf. Thank goodness we did have Mr. Roche speak on her behalf. We did have Mr. Marabella speak on her behalf in the ways that they could. But I'm going to share something with you that's only going to just enrage you more. And you want to know what that is? Remember, he has a full-term date in 2040. No, I'm sorry. $2041. Okay, I thought it was 2031 for a second. I said he's going to get out in 9 years. So he's 58 today. So he's still, thank goodness he's still got another 20 years, basically 17 years. So was it 77 something years old when he gets out, which is still young enough to hurt people, but hopefully he doesn't have good time, and hopefully he spends every single day locked up. His biological daughter starting at the age of 3, 4 or 5 times a week for 2 years, and the best that he can come up with after all these years, 21 years later, was he was doing it to get back at his wife. You can't make it up. And I bet you, they didn't mention it, but I bet you he's got a low risk score. Oh, I bet you he does. But hey, I'll get off of my soapbox. If you didn't see it, you might not believe it. And that's why we do this. Evil does exist. And it needs to be locked in the deepest cells. And they need to throw away the key. With that, I'll let you go.